Okay, back from the break, and what I would like to talk about now is taking random elements and putting them into a cohesive whole. We know this best probably by the work that George Martin did as producer of the Beatles, so much so that people called him the fifth Beatle. So when you're talking about things like the Sgt. Pepper's album, and you've got all the I buried Paul and all of this sort of stuff, all the sound effects, you know, through Strawberry Fields Forever and, you know, Day in the Life and all sorts of business, you know, just general Sgt. Pepper's and all that sort of stuff. You're starting to get into a style of music that was very popular in the 50s and 60s by taking different random elements and putting them together. And within the environment sometimes, let's say with Edgard Varese, who was a great influence of Frank Zappa, his poem Electronic, which he put together for the World Fair in, I can't remember the year, but it was a World Fair sometime. Look it up, and there you go. But essentially, these different random tape elements. I remember watching a documentary with George Martin where he actually took snippets of tape, of just reel-to-reel tape, threw it up in the air and spliced them back together and came up with some of the stuff that we all revere on the Sgt. Pepper's album of 1967 with the Beatles. Well, Frank Zappa was of the same ilk and of the same time and of the same courage to, you know, to really do these kinds of things and put it together into a cohesive whole, whether it be doing all this stuff with an underlying beat, so you know, he'd love to send up a twist and do different things over the top. And, you know, I've already talked about Reuben and the Jets, which is this album here where he does doo-wop, but he puts Stravinsky inside it. You know, he laces it all with Stravinsky. And there you go. So this is what this section of the show is all about, is being able to put extraneous elements, get very tricky and polyrhythmic, because as soon as you layer one thing over the top of another, you can't help but be polyrhythmic. If I just talk to you with a regular click like this, my voice is sailing over the top of a regular metronomic beat. If I talked slower like this, it would be a different rhythm. And then if I had too much coffee and I talked like this, like that, it would be a different rhythm again. But the beat is still the same. So that's what he sort of, did with many albums. Most of them are here. These are all the early albums. You know, the first half a dozen years really. But he kept on doing it. And yeah, this is what I'm talking about tonight, and finishing it off with something a bit funny, satirical. You know, you could be very serious and finish it off with